So welcome to the ITP Weather Band's debut performances. Tom, I love your water bottle. Woo! So we are excited to have you here and to share what you have been working on this past semester. We are not a class, and we gathered only based on our interest and passion. So what is ITP Weatherband? Like Weatherband, raise your hand. So like Weatherband has like our background is like a little silly weatherband, so you can recognize most of us. So we are an experimental band, and we create sound and music with custom software and hardware musical instruments. And we play weather data collected from a DIY weather station, which is actually installed outside my room. And we use sound and music as a medium for delivering information about our environment through our auditory senses. So let me introduce ourselves first. Well, before we start, I just wanted to give like a little story about like who we are and like why we have been doing this. So let me share my screen. Can you see the faces? Okay, so yeah, so the weather band consists of students, of research residents, and faculties at ITP. And I am Yeseul, and I teach and do art and research project at ITP, and have been leading and advising the group with Tom Igoe, a professor and the head of physical computing at ITP. So today we have an amazing lineup: Name, Schuyler, Song, Nun, Seed, Brent, Arnab, and Jesse. And Brent and Arnab especially have been contributing a lot to putting together the weather station system. So thank you. And there are more students like Eating Sai, Atchareeya, and Rishali from 2 years ago who are in the group, although not performing this time. And we are part of IT Power, a research group exploring creative uses of technology for a sustainable future. So before we start, let me introduce what our project is. So the project was started as a research project about sustainability and environment. And last year, we put together a DIY weather station kit from Tom, and made environmental sensor circuits and wrote Arduino codes to get the weather information from our own environment. Even though weather forecasts from central resources exist everywhere, we found it meaningful with the ITP spirit and empowering to be able to measure the weather with materials and knowledges that we have with our own hands. So, and then we saw educational and sentimental value to it. We thought it would be really nice and fun to use our weather data with physical outputs such as visuals, physical movement, and especially the sound. What do the weather sound like? And what if we can play the weather data with various instruments and make a performance together?
Okay.
This is one of very early prototypes. And this is starting from this prototype,
Okay.
and we put together ideas, and this is when we formed ITP Weather Band. The project needs different skill set from physical computing for sensing the weather, networking to push the data to the database, and database development, building instruments, and installing the weather station. And this picture is in the classroom that we were having IT power meeting, and the ITP weather band was born here. So we are working together on the floor in these different parts. And thanks to Tom, Igoe, Jeff Feddersen, Ellen, and many more people at 370J, we were starting a really exciting conversation about the possibility of installing the station to the green roof of our new building. However, After we spent a month working together on this project on the floor, the social distancing started due to the pandemic, and we had to move all of our project online. But so where's the weather station go? And which one of us, which is I, took the weather station and installed it outside my apartment. And it's still spinning there. Outside of our apartment on the emergency staircase where dogs and squirrels come by. The circuit and additional sensors have been placed in an empty food container like this and posting data to the web. At the same time, we quickly put together a system that collects the weather data and posts it to the database, so all of the band members can access the real-time and historical weather data. This is on the left is the weather station, and we collect wind speed, direction, rain, UV, and humidity, and many more weather data, and then post to the database. And everyone in different parts of the world and in New York can access the data and make an instrument out of it. And this is what the data looks like, posted every 10 minutes. And along with building the remote working system like this, we continued our weekly meetings to discuss updates and sharing feedback for each other's instruments. And now we are excited to do the debut performance today. Each member will perform with their instruments and talk about how it works and the process a little bit. And each member used various weather data from different dates to compose a piece. This is a program. I can also copy to the chat so you can still see. So let's start. The first is Temperature Bells by Schuyler. He will play the most recent temperature data with his instrument. So Schuyler, please take over.
All right. Who's ready to rock? Woo! I can't hear you. Ooh, not too much. Okay.
Schuyler, don't forget to share your audio when you share the screen.
Yeah, let me do that right now. Thank you for the enthusiasm, everyone. Okay, let's try this. So I guess I'll just go for it, and afterwards I'll explain how it works to you, my lovely audience. So let's go. So that is my performance. Feel free to make liberal use of the clap reaction.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So yeah, let me explain what exactly is going on here. So I use temperature to generate all of these. And if like I explain this and you don't get something, just like let me know and I'll answer it. So I use temperature to generate all these little dots that you see everywhere. The weather data is pulled from the weather station, which you saw, and it uses the last 300 points of the 300 most recent points of temperature. And then it maps the temperatures across the screen. So they take up the entire screen. The leftmost temperatures are the coldest temperatures, and the rightmost temperatures are the warmest temperatures. So you can see that most of the temperatures for whenever I pulled this, which was like 10 minutes ago, are around this range recently, and then there are a few unusually hot ones and a couple quite cold ones. And the sound is a single audio file of a bell, and the rate at which the bell plays, the playback rate of the bell, is also mapped to the position on the screen. So it's 0.1% playback rate on the left. It's 2 times playback rate on the right. And so right in the middle of the screen should be like, this is what it normally sounds like. And so this is playing twice as fast. And this is playing 0.1 times as fast over here. So it affects both what it sounds like, the pitch, and also how frequently you hear it, so that these ones you're going to hear a lot on the right, and the ones on the left you're not going to hear as often. So something I like about this, which as an instrument especially, which I'll show you by editing something in here. Let's use temperature weather. Yeah. Is that depending on when you're playing it, the temperatures are all in different places. Weird. Well, it is on that one. So you can see that in this case, most of the temperatures are over here, and there are a few unusually cold ones. So if you decide to play it on this day, then you're going to have a predilection for faster, higher sounds. And if you play it on a day like this, you're going to have a lot of lower sounds. Besides that, I'm not sure there's a ton to tell. I really like how you can make little constellations with the bells. So it's like kind of audiovisual. The background is just a LERP color I did. Yeah. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but thanks so much for, oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Wow, that whole time. Why didn't someone unmute themselves? Let me run through that one more time. So this is using a different weather data. You can see that most of the temperatures are over here as opposed to over here. This one, most of the temperatures are over here as opposed to over there. Did anything I say make it through, or was I not sharing my screen the entire time?
You were sharing it during your performance.
Okay, well, all is not lost then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about it, I think. Unless anyone has some questions. Oh, thank you. So just like to reinforce what I was saying, if I'm going to do it with this weather data, there's a lot of higher sounds, less lower sounds.
Schuyler, perhaps you said it and I missed it, but how much time did the weather data that we heard represent? How much real weather time?
Yeah, so this is 300 points of weather data. And I forget, Yeseul, do you know exactly how often it samples, the weather station samples? Is it 10 minutes or an hour? because I'm just pulling it straight from the
10 minutes.
It's
10
every
minutes?
10 minutes. I didn't know I was muted.
Oh yeah, that would explain it. No, so this is pretty recent. So it'll be different if you play it. If this is what you're getting at, Tom, it'll be different if you're here in the day, in the morning, or at night.
Well, yeah, if you said 300 points of weather data, that's 3,000 minutes worth of time that we were listening to. So
Was my math off?
no, I was just wondering how many. I can't do that math in my head. 3,000 divided by 24. 3,000.
Is it 3,000 points?
Well, you said 300 points, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
It's 2 days.
Every 10 minutes. 2 days? Okay, so this is 2 days. So it's
Thanks, Sid.
not based on morning or night because I'm bad at math, but it changes based on what the weather's like day by day. Yeah, thanks, Sid.
Thanks.
Well, thanks, Schuyler. It was really
Yeah,
minimalistic and also meditative sound.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. And the next is Sid. Sid will perform 2 pieces together, which is Wind Visualizer and Cymbals Monkey.
Okay. Let me, so, am I unmuted? I am unmuted. Okay. So I am gonna talk. So I'm gonna talk about the visualizer on the left first. So this is kind of a sketch that I started last year and finished today. Was kind of like a wind visualizer of a array, like a grid of pixels that react to wind. So this is kind of demonstrating the physics of how Yeseul, can you spotlight me? All right, I'm gonna keep talking. So
I can hear you.
This is kind of the simulation for the physics of if this you can hear me better. Okay. So you have a wind input, and based on the angle of these particles, quote unquote, depends on the angle of it. It shows basically how it reflects light, quote unquote. So the brightness of each pixel will be reflecting on how it reacts to wind. And I pulled the data from May 8th. I was gonna pull it today, but for some reason it's all the same wind direction, so it's less interesting. So I pulled it from May, I think 8th and 9th. And just stepping through time every, I think 2 seconds or 120 frames, so roughly 2 seconds. And on the right, with the same data set or with the same time frame, the frequency of how this guy claps is based on the wind speed. So the faster the wind is, the faster it claps with like a certain threshold. So you can kind of both see the direction of it and speed. I think that's it. I mean, you can just stare at for a while, but yeah. So this is when this wind isn't like strong, it'll just kind of stop. Yeah, any questions?
Any questions for Sid? I love the
Aw.
Cymbals monkey. And also the wave of wind is really nice. It almost
Yeah,
has like a physical physicality to it, your visualizer.
it's kind of, it's very like meta because before today, I only have the wind blowing from one direction. So like when I try to hook up the data of which direction it's in, and then it's like mixing all the direction together. It's starting kind of doing this like not linear wave, so it's like super cool to see it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Sid. Any last questions? Okay. Yeah, thank you, Sid. Some people were asking me in the chat that they just came in and like, where is the how this work? So we are weather band and we make like we have been making like experimental instrument with software and hardware, and the instruments are being played by the weather data, which is from which is installed in my window. We had to do it because it was like a corona. We had to move everything remote, and I have the weather station outside my window, and we are streaming the data to the database, and people are using it for making the composition with their instruments. Okay. Yes, next is, let me cancel the spotlight, and next is Chun Song, and her piece is spatial wind sound composition, and it is spatial sound. It's a really not cool piece. And if possible, please wear your headphone, and that should give you a better experience. So
Okay.
yeah.
So my piece is called Spatial Wind Sound Composition. So hopefully you should hear a stereo sound. And this is an interface that shows the wind data I use, and also the date and time of the wind data. And this is the space interface that shows where the listener is, and also the green points shows where the sound partials is. Okay, I'll start now. Okay. Feel like there in the middle there's a little stuck because maybe there's so many things going on here. And so I use this board system, and this sound partials is all the partials that I separated from a single note on bassoon. And so these are the overtones of the bassoons, and I laid out them in space. And the wind speed determines how these partials moves, how fast these partials moves, and the wind direction determines where it is moved to. Also, because I also have some human interventions here, because when the wind will blow these partials too far away, so I have to put it back to the listener a little bit. And yeah, because we all interpret these data in by our own ways. So yeah, this is a combination of the nature and human. Also, the strength of the wind also controls some of the volumes of these partials. So you could hear more evidently when the wind is stronger or it's weaker. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Great job. Yeah. Woo. Woo.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
And we will have, if as long as the time will, we'll have a little a short Q&A session after everything. So anyone is welcome to ask any question at that time too. Okay, thank you so much, Song. It was really, yeah, really. I felt like I'm like standing middle of the wind.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next is name. Name will share her project Wind Guitar.
Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Name, and my project is called Wind Guitar. First of all, I want to show you like a physical piece of it. Let me share this thing. So here is my guitar piece. Basically it's running on like the stepper motor, and here is the ukulele string that make it sound. So I'm gonna show you like a video because like the sound in Zoom is not that great. Okay. That's it.
Woohoo!
Yay. Yeah, that's it. And let me talk about like the making of this piece a little. Like, so the wind guitar is also like my final project in like intangible class with Yeseul. And my inspiration behind this piece is like, personally, I feel like the wind is kind of like the musician of the nature. Every time the wind blowing, we're gonna hear like some sound from like some stuff. And then I'm making this piece to like spotlight the wind as like a mini concert for it, and then allow people to playing with the wind as well. And yeah, here's the piece. Basically, I use like a stepper monitor to like moving according to like the wind direction data getting from like weather band. And I have some experiments in like making this project by like making it in a quarantine and have to like find the stuff at my home to like building an instrument. And here's some iteration to the idea. And yeah, I got the idea of making the instrument from like Bass Trash channel on YouTube. You can check it out. It's so cool. And yeah, the first iteration I try is like I'm using the rubber band and the box. And here is the sound of it. Can you hear the sound? Yeah, can you hear the sound? Okay. Okay. So yeah, the boxes can like amplify the sound really well, but the problem is I cannot find enough rubber and enough box to make a guitar. So I just like keep up with this idea, and then I drink a lot of Coke during like this quarantine. Then I decided to use it with like the string, and here's the sound. Yeah, it sounds really good, and it's kind of easy to tune the sound. So I decided to go with this direction. And then when I try it with like the real material, it's not working because I cannot hold the can with the board. And then I decided to change the direction a little to like using a canned food that I have in a place and then place it around the circle. It's working, but I cannot hold the can and then tighten the string. So it's coming to like this final product that I use like the mirror from like my last semester final project and then turn it into a new piece. Yeah, so that's all.
Ooh, that's so great. Any questions? I see a question from Tom. What tuning did you use for the strings, or was it random?
Right now it's random because like this material I use is the foam board. I think if I can go back to the floor and like rebuild it, I will use like the wood or something that kind of like harder than this, because right now it's a little bit wonky when I like tuning. Yeah, so right now it's just random.
But it's brilliant how you use like a different length of the strings to make it into different.
Yeah. I use the different length of the string to like make it a different sound, and also like the string that I use is the ukulele string, so it have like the different thickness. So it's kind of like changing the sound according to that as well.
Okay. Well, thanks so much. It was really great, and it's amazing how resourceful you were able to during locked into your apartment.
Yay! Thank you.
Woo!
Okay, next is Noon. She'll present her piece Weather Radio. By the way, we have a YouTube channel, which I sent a link to now. we only have one video for now, but we are, this is just the start of our band, and we plan to make it into a collaborative performance, which was a little tricky because a remote situation, but we will be having more progress, so please tune in. Oh, sorry, next is Jesse.
Oh.
Woo!
One moment.
Jesse is going to play the weather probably. This is our research resident at ITP, so thanks for joining us as a special guest.
One moment. I was a bit thrown off. Can you hear? One moment. I'm just sharing my screen. Okay. Tell me if you can hear this. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Is it good volume?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to just talk a little bit about what it is as I'm doing it. So I'm going to demo this. So basically what I'm doing here is each of these weather events is sending out MIDI notes to a different MIDI channel, which is then assigned to a different instrument within Ableton Live. And then these sliders affect the significance of each of those values. And so effectively what they're doing is they're filtering out weather data that is either redundant or very similar to the data that has preceded it. So as I press start here, you'll see that all of these red circles indicate that there is data there being associated with the time and date here. However, it is not being sent. And then as I move further to the left, that data is being deemed more and more important or significant. And so it's being played. And so the note here is being indicated, and all of this data is being constrained to a G flat major scale, which is equivalent to all of the black keys on a piano. And so what's interesting is you can kind of find these grooves of the data that is more interesting than others. And so right now I'm saying that the cello or the temperature data should be played at each of the divisions, and then less so. And so as you're moving to the right or to the left, it's the further or closer deviations from the previous note that was played. And so effectively this results in making each of the instruments play more sparsely, which I think over like a larger period of time could be really interesting. So for right now, I'm doing this over a 2-week period of May 1st to May 16th or whatever the date is today. However, over the course of a year, if we were to slow this down, or rather speed up the clock, but make the notes more sparse, we would be able to hear really, truly significant weather events more clearly. And so now I'm going to speed it up, but try to make it even more sparse. That's it.
Woo! Woo! Yay!
Thank you. So I don't know if my voice was coming through loud enough for everybody to hear what I was explaining, but if anybody has any questions, I can answer them.
Jesse, have you found a combination of note filters that you tend to gravitate towards?
You know, I had sort of like, I found it within the data, but because the data is sort of always evolving, there's no preset that will work all the time. And that's kind of what I like about this. It's sort of fun to just discover the relationships between the weather in a way without necessarily looking at it and just using your ear. So I found like I was able to relate some of the positioning based on like nighttime or daytime, or if it was particularly rainy or dark out that day. But it's not something that translates the same over a long period.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Jesse, I'm curious, did you pick, when you said you were listening for patterns, were you listening for rhythmic patterns or melodic patterns or both? And how did you pick your key signature?
So I'd say rhythmic patterns for sure. And that's like, in part, I'm more so interested, or I'm very interested in rhythmic patterns. So that's like a big joy for me in using this. I chose a G flat major just because it is the least likely scale to result in sort of clashing notes. I had tried some others also, and I'd like to build in here into the interface where you might be able to choose it. But yeah, it's just for demonstration purposes, it's the least likely to sort of sound off-putting.
Can you say a little bit more about why that is?
I don't know if I can actually. I just know it to be true.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks so much. Woo! Jesse, there are a lot of, everyone, there are a lot of really nice comments in the comment chat, so you should be happy to see them. Okay, thank you. And the last performer we have today is Noon, and she will perform Weather right here.
Woo-hoo. Woo. Oh, okay, I'm on Spotlight. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for being here. It's such great weather today, so I'm grateful that you're all here. And my project is sort of about that, about how the weather has been so good this past 2 weeks, but it's also been my last week at ITP, which means that was a lot of work. And even though the weather was so nice outside, that was like a conflict between the weather and my calendar. And so I put them together, and my weather radio is sort of the manifestation of that conflict and the resistance I have towards going outside. Okay, so let me show my screen. So when I press play here, it's going to start the sketch, and you'll see red dots, which is luminance, and blue dots, which is temperature, and my Google Calendar, which I will read out day by day. This is from May 1st till May 15th. Let me close the chat. Okay. Friday, May 1st, 12:15 p.m. weather band meeting. 4 p.m. analog.
May 2nd, mostly cloudy. May 3rd, mostly cloudy. May 4th, partly cloudy. May 5th,
Tuesday, May 5th.
mostly cloudy.
3:20 p.m. thesis presentation to critics.
May 6th,
Wednesday, May 6th.
cloudy.
9 a.m. tangible interactions final.
May 7th,
Thursday, May 7th.
partly cloudy. May 8th, scattered showers.
Research presentation. Friday, May 8th. Barnard Tech Check, 2 p.m. 3:30 p.m. Barnard Showcase, 5:30 p.m.
May
Thesis Happy Hour.
9th, mostly cloudy. May 10th, partly cloudy. May 11th, mostly cloudy. May 12th,
Tuesday, May 12th.
mostly sunny.
Thesis week, day 1.
May 13th,
Wednesday, May 13th.
mostly sunny.
Thesis week, day 2. 7 p.m. thesis tech check.
May
Thursday,
14th,
May 14th.
mostly cloudy.
Thesis week, day 3. 2 p.m. thesis final presentation.
May 15th,
Friday, May
partly
15th.
cloudy.
Thesis week, day 4. Thesis week, day 4. Thesis week, day 4. Thesis week, day 4. End of graduate school.
Wow.
So I think the weather data and my personal calendar don't always match, but I think that's the reason it's nice that sometimes they do line up, and that's probably why I appreciate good weather so much. Yeah, I'm like, when people say they like play by the ear, I think my calendar or lifestyle is very much play by the weather.
Such a touching performance. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, I see comments like, I love all the narrative layers of this piece. It's like weather, journals, and yeah, many good feedback on the comments.
Thank you.
How do you feel about the end of the performance and also of ITP?
Me? I feel like today we're gonna have some good data on your weather station. I don't know, it's too big of a question. Pass.
Your facial expressions tells everything. Yeah, well, thanks so much. It was really great. And great performances. Before we go to Q&A session, great performances, everyone. And really big claps for all of you who have been working on this extracurricular activity on top of your classes and thesis. So, woohoo! So this was just a start for us, and we are continuing to develop our performances over the summer. And this is a part of IT Power activity, and Tom, Igoe, and Jeff Feddersen and I will be continuing the group for the next semester. So if you are interested in the IT Power or weather band, please reach out to us. And huge thanks to ITP, IT Power, and Tish, and show producers, Tom and Catherine, for making this virtual show happen for us. Tom, do you have anything you wanna talk about for us?
Nope, no. Just want to say thank you all. I mean, it's been wonderful to sort of see this grow, and I think one of the things I find interesting about it is to see something that seems very unlikely as a combination, to sort of say, how do we take data about one phenomenon and translate it to another? And I think where it's interesting to watch where this goes is what constraints we choose to put around how we interpret the data to make something musical of it. You know, there are all these metaphors we can use, like emotional weather and so forth, but I think it's worthwhile trying and thinking, how do we go from that metaphor into a set of nuts and bolts that actually make something that sounds expressive? And I think Jesse was hinting at that in his little bit, and Nun was hinting at it in hers a little bit. I think it'd be worthwhile to explore that more, and I look forward to seeing where it goes.
Thanks so much, Tom. And yeah, for me, it has been really great to work with all of you. And Tom, it's yeah, thank you. And now we'll open the stage to everyone. So if any of you have any questions or any thoughts, please just chat with us. And we have a